Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to Collective Conversations. Today, I'm honored to sit with Joya Sosnowski, a sound medicine woman, embodied mystic, and guide for conscious grieving and becoming. Joya's work beautifully weaves sound medicine, somatics, and spiritual healing to help others reconnect with their light through life's deepest transformations. So, one of the reasons this conversation feels so special to me today is because when we first shared space together, Joya, um, in our healing summit that we did together, you mentioned an experience of your awakening through grief, just like I have had. And with me grieving my mother, and also being able to see a piece of your journey with you grieving as a mother with your son, that created immediate soul connection for me, just such a strong resonance. And I've felt a great connection between us. Ever since then, just to be able to share that space with you and share that energy with each other. So I am so grateful to have you here. Thank you for sharing this time with me today, especially on such a, I want to say, a sacred weekend. So I will let you introduce yourself to everyone, and then we will go from there.
Oh my gosh. Well, the feeling is so mutual. I just love your soul. You're so light, so calm, so loving, so gentle. And I
Thank
just love your
you.
energy. And it's all in divine timing. We were supposed to do this, I don't know what, a month ago, but lifes. And here we are today. And I feel like I don't need to introduce myself because you did such a great job of introducing myself. And yeah, as we record this today, as we postponed it and things were happening with both of us and our growth or what was happening. And then to realize that, oh, yeah, it's the day before Mother's Day for both of
Yes.
us, something that you grieve and something that I grieve. And it's also would have been my son's 20th birthday tomorrow at the same time. So it is such a beautiful, beautiful, perfect time for us to be together doing this. I sense something really powerful is going to birth from this.
Yes, thank you. I'm so truly grateful. To find out that tomorrow is your son's birthday. It's such an honor that you are here sharing this space with me today. So I'm really grateful. I want to make sure you know how grateful I am, and thank you so much. So Joya, let's talk about your work that you do. Let's start there. I know you do beautiful sound healing. Can we explain what this is to new people that don't know what this is and have never heard of it?
Oh my goodness, yes. Sound healing. Oh, there like, where do I start with how to describe sound healing? Well, let's say that you are mostly water. Your body is mostly water, and your bones are conductive. So, when you're listening to sound, when you're listening to music, let's say everybody listens to music. When you're listening to music, you're experiencing that not just as the song you're listening to, but you're literally experiencing it vibrationally inside of you. And so to work with sound healing is to work with obviously sounds that are healing for someone's nervous system. And for me, it's an effortless way of meditation. So it instantly quiets the mind because through sound healing, and when it's done intentionally and by a skilled practitioner, it drops you into a theta or alpha brainwave state, which is your very rested state. It's also the state that you are highly suggestible for making change or transformation in your life. It also has the ability to completely open up your heart if you set that intention for feeling. It opens up your heart to love, to receive. And my favorite thing that it does is that it also calms down your nervous system. And knowing that the body is the unconscious mind that stores everything that's ever happened to us. It's a recording device. And so I know that it helped me to heal through trauma prior to my son's passing, that it was sound that really helped to free my nervous system from those repeating loops. And I did that through sound, mostly through my specialty is not only sound bowls and external sound coming into you, which is really profound and very beautiful, but also utilizing your own voice and getting in touch with using your voice as medicine and really feeling inside of you where those tangled spots are and having the courage to really use your voice to let that sound, that energy express out of your body. So predominantly now, mostly when I work with clients, as I roll back into getting back into work now, I actually wasn't doing sound for this whole past year of grieving because I'm aware as a practitioner that my frequency, my energy is transmittable onto the fields of other people. And so I didn't want anybody to pick up grief, my grief, into their energy fields. And so now, as I'm getting back into work, I'm finding that mostly what I'm using now is just voice and a drum. It's really, really, really powerful. It's one of the most ancient healing modalities there is in the world.
Ah, that's awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask about the drum. Um, the drum, and I've heard that you make beautiful drums, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Um, and the drum to me is it's so very magnetic to me, like draws me in, and I love it. And anytime I hear it, I like to listen to a lot of meditation music that has drum in it,
Mm.
and so I'd like to hear more about the drum with the healing.
Mm.
And also how it can, I know it definitely helps to regulate the nervous system, but also the benefits of what the drum can bring along with healing for the body.
Ooh, drum is we are rhythmic beings. We have our own drum beat constantly inside of us. Our heartbeat is our rhythm. That's our tempo. That's our own inner drum beat. And oftentimes when I'm starting working with a drum with a woman who has never worked with a drum before, has never even picked up a drum before, is just simply to tune in and put your hand on your pulse and play that pulse with your hand and just feel that so you could start to feel that inner rhythm coming out of you. Drum medicine, there is so much research about drum and what it does and how good it is for you. I mean, we could have a whole podcast episode just on drumming. Um, it is definitely one of the most ancient medicines in the entire world. Still to this day, many cultures will use drumming for grieving, especially like there's grieving ceremonies that are just drumming, dancing, and sounding. Irish keening. There's cultures all over the world that use drum medicine to get your body moving. You can't not move because you go into entrainment with a drum. It draws you into that rhythm. It draws you into the story that that drum is telling you. And everybody has such a different experience with it. And one of the things that I really love in doing drum circles and facilitating drum circles is watching, people listen. You drop in and people listen, and then they'll go into entrainment where and entrainment means that we're all in the same frequency now. We're all in the same vibration. We're all moving in the same rhythm. We've synced up as a collective. And then I'll say, everybody add your own beat, add your own flavor now. I'll keep the heartbeat going. I'll keep the main rhythm with the buffalo drum. And then everybody else, I'll say, okay, now add your own flavor to the rhythm. And what will happen is it will start out a mess. Everyone's just doing their own thing. But then people start to listen to each other. And one person like she starts to play this rhythm and it sticks and she sticks with it. And then another woman will hear that and she'll hear the heartbeat going on and then she'll add another flavor to it. And pretty soon I will watch as this group turns into this incredible, I'm getting goosebumps just because I love it so much. Watching this group come into this cohesive unit where now they're playing together. They're playing for themselves and they're playing together because they're also listening deeply. And I love watching their faces light up, the smiles, the joy that the drumming actually brings. And you can tell I'm very passionate about it. It's been shown to help with, it definitely helps with depression. It helps with sickness, when you're not feeling well, it increases your white blood cell count. So like when my whole family got COVID, I'm like, circle up, we're having a drum circle. And it's so good. Drumming is medicine. There's a book that I absolutely love by Lane Redmond that's called When the Drummers Were Women. And she actually traveled the world and documented all of these ancient cultures and statues and carvings everywhere of women with a drum in their hand. And so this is something I'm so passionate about is, drumming is Mm. Drumming is medicine. Drumming is healing. Drumming brings community. Drumming brings movement. Drumming does all of these things. And even for my son's celebration of life, I couldn't speak. I'm like, what can I say? There's nothing I can say about him that could be said with words. And I brought my drum and my voice and I just sang out how I felt with my drum. And that was what I did at my son's celebration of life. And that's what I did for the whole year of deep grieving. It's what I still do. It's what I still do. I drum for joy, I drum for grief, I drum for peace. I drum to connect to my soul. I drum to connect to God. I drum to connect. I drum to connect. Period.
Wow. That's so beautiful. Thank you for that, Joya. You know, I know you have a podcast where it's Turn Up the Light. Is that
Yeah,
the name of
turn
it?
up your light. Yeah.
Turn Up the Light, with the music and everything. And I took a listen to it, and I thought, wow, this is so amazing. And it's so very calming. Everything you just explained, it truly is all of that. And I love that you put that out to the world, to the collective. And it's so, gosh, I really can't even explain the experience of listening to it. It's just so, it's almost kind of, for me, I love nature. Nature connects me to everything for me.
Mhm.
Anytime I'm in a deep down moment, or I feel I'm a little stressed, or I need to calm down, or I need my nervous system to reset, or even if I just want to connect, I want to connect with spirit, or I want to get guidance. Nature is what I mainly go to.
Mm.
Um, that is the feeling that I felt when I was listening to your music on the podcast.
Wow.
Yes, that is how I can best describe it, because it's such a beautiful thing. My goodness. So I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful
Oh,
that this is something that you offer to everyone as well. So
thank
I'm
you.
thankful. Just touch on a little piece of the podcast so everyone will know, um, how to find it and how often you download on there.
Oh, thank you. I release an episode every Wednesday morning, and it is Turn Up Your Light is really a process that my son downloaded to me over this last year and it took me a long time to really trust and believe and know, but as I've been working these principles and living them, they've really turned up my inner light. They've ignited my inner light. And as you know, as we both have had spiritual awakenings massively through grief, that when you go to those depths of yourself, into those deep cavernous places where you could distract yourself before, where you could run away before, or where you could do whatever it was you did before, those things don't work anymore. And now you're there with you and your feelings and what's going on, and going into that place, and then the descent, and then the ascent, which honestly, I'm still in the ascent part of it. I am not arrived anywhere. I'm still on the journey. New things arrive all the time. And I'm like, wow. And my perspective continues to change. But I know that to turn up your light is not something that you do once. It's not one and done. It's a continual process because we are supposed to be constantly becoming. There's no there to get to. We come to the end of our life in this, actually, sorry, this incarnation. My son said, "Stop calling that your life. It's not your life." This incarnation as a soul in this human outfit, that this will end. This will come to an end. And for me, the whole point of it is to really live with as much light as I possibly can, not just for me, but for everybody around me. For everybody around me, that when I turn up my light, it also means that I'm turning up the light around other people too.
Yes. Wow. Thank you. Um, I'd like to ask, um, as we speak about grief, because I was trying not to speak about it too much, but I think it's important that we do have this conversation about grieving and the things that it's awakened in us, and especially how it can be such a beautiful transformation for us. And I'd like to ask you, what do you feel was the awakening turning point for you?
Oh, honestly, it was immediate because, well, I wouldn't say I awakened immediately so much as I knew that this was a soul contract, and I knew it instantly. And um, I had, and my husband had witnessed and experienced, and my husband is a structural engineer. He's very practical, very grounded, very down to earth. And he also experienced what had happened in 2024, the year before my son passed, that honestly spiritually prepared me to come into what I was coming into. And so I knew it immediately. And I also have a very strong spiritual foundation before that. And so that was also the real proving ground of, do you really believe everything that you have said you believe? Do you really believe in what you profess to believe? And as a person I'm a reverend, I've been teaching about spirituality for a long time. A few years ago, Spirit put it upon me to start sharing my story on Instagram, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to, but I did. And so people watched me go through, like, talking about all this spirituality, and then this happened. How do I handle that? And not to say that I do it for public approval, I didn't, but to do it for um, a test of my real faith, and not even a test of faith. It's more like being who you are, being forged in that fire and having it burn away everything false. Because when you go through grief, when you go through intense grief, like, I lost my tolerations. I lost my tolerance for fake friendships. I lost my tolerance for being in noisy, busy places I didn't like. I lost my tolerance for anything I didn't like. And I really started making very self-honoring choices to not put myself in situations that I didn't want to be in. And that also included grieving the way I was grieving, because I found myself, because of the spiritual experiences, because he was coming through to me, um, that I was experiencing just as much profound wonder and awe in the whole experience as I was profound sadness and profound loss. And so that was a very confusing, soup of feelings to be in. And so I found that I wasn't grieving. I mean, like somebody said, if that happened to me, I'd be collapsed on my bedroom floor for 2 years. And I'm like, "Well, how do you know that? You don't know until you're in the shoes of the person." We all think we know what we would do, but that's not true. And as an example, I'll always give to people who say that to me, like, if that was me, I would blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, nobody went to work at the World Trade Center and said, I'm going to jump out a window today. Like, you don't know what you're capable of. You don't know how you will grieve. You don't know any of it until you're in it. And grieving is also a very deeply personal process. There's no 5 stages of grief. The 5 stages of grief were written for people who are dying, not for people who are living and surviving the loss of someone that they love. And so going through it is kind of an uncharted territory. And it really is. And one of the most important things that, like, why I talk about it is because of the fact that I happened to have everything. I had a strong foundation to have a spiritual awakening through grief. And it is possible to have a spiritual awakening through grief if you walk through it consciously, because what happens, I'm a mindfulness trainer also. And so I knew immediately that I was being rewired, because a bit, maybe about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I had to move my studio because I had just signed a new lease and I had to go move all my stuff. And I went to go get gas. Of course, I needed gas. And I went to go get gas. And instead of grabbing my purse off the kitchen counter, I had grabbed a loaf of bread. And I sat there going, how did I do that? Like, that's just not like me. And so I said, what is happening to my brain? And I went home and started researching it. And I'm like shouting it from the rooftops to everybody. When you go through massive grief, the part of your brain that tells you who you think you are in the world is unplugged. It's gone. It's erased. It's that whole self referential. This is me. This is my place in life. This is how my life works. These are the people in my life. This is the meaning in my life. All of that is gone. And so I went, oh my God, I'm being rewired. I knew immediately I was going to get rewired. And I knew I didn't want to be rewired to be stuck in the worst day of my life. And so I knew to stay present. I had to stay present and feel how I felt. There was no escaping it. There was no getting around it. There was no shortcutting it. Just being in it and going through it, feeling how I felt without telling myself a story about it. And in that presence process, doing that, I've discovered, like going back to the drumming, that there was a rhythm to grief. Like everything else, there's a natural rhythm in nature because, you mentioned you love nature. I do too. And we are nature. We are of this planet. We are walking animated stardust on planet Earth, right? And so we are nature. And so when I could just be in the feeling, like I could feel it. I'm like, oh, I could feel it like a wave. I would almost see it coming and I'd be like, okay, I'm here. I'm ready. I'm gonna be with it. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy because it's not. It's not easy. But it's easier than being rewired to be stuck in the worst day of your life. And I've met people who, now I get it. I'm like, I've met people who've lost a child 10 years ago, or their sister or their best friend or a parent, that someone they were really close to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and they're still in that heavy grief of that day. And I'm like, they rewired themselves there because nobody talks about this and nobody knows that your brain does that. And that it's also your brain also is almost identical in a brain scan to a brain on magic mushrooms. So you're having a really bad trip, seriously, which is why everything feels so disassociative for a while. And it takes time and love and self-kindness and patience and presence, and however you can move those feelings out of your body, including going in your car and screaming, which I did a lot. And I don't even know if that answered your question. I just went
Oh
on.
no, definitely, absolutely. I don't even remember what the question was now. But that was good. It was good. It was really good. And my light now is just flickering off and
I
on by
saw
itself.
it. I saw it.
And I'm just like, okay, I hear you, spirit. You know. But
Mm.
for me, Joya, grief it is, I'm gonna say, it's such a big piece of my life, a big piece of this journey that I am journeying on. Um, I just turned 43 in March, and I've experienced grief of my grandmother that raised me, my grandfather, my father, and now my mother. So for me, with my mother being the latest transition, um, I would always say to myself, I would never make it. I would never make it through if I had to lose my mom. Um, you know, and that was like one of the biggest things I was afraid of because I had seen so much grief already in my family. And I was just like, I don't know. I would not be able to make it. I can't, I wouldn't. And it's exactly what you said. I did not know until it was something that I really actually had to face. And and Me and my mom were so very close, and we still are. And she would tell me, uh, this is what I want at my funeral. This is what I want you to do. This, and I would say, Mom, please, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to discuss this. I don't want, and she would be, she's very, very funny also. And she would crack a joke, and she's just like, listen, this is life. You're gonna have to experience this. And I would try to just pass it clear, ignore it as much as I could. And when my mom actually did transition, I felt a strength in me that I had never experienced before. It was like something took over my body. And at one point, I almost felt like I was merging with her in some sort of a way. And I felt this strength of where I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what we're going to do. And I thought, how am I going to get through this? And I did. When I look back at it, I picked everything out. I did everything. I set up everything for her. Um, and and I was okay through it. And I can remember maybe 3 or 4 days before, I want to say maybe 3 days before she transitioned, she came to me in a dream and she showed me her removing everything, all of the oxygen, everything, beautiful smile. And I can remember I actually got upset in the dream and I was just kind of like, no, like put everything back on, like you need it. And I remember explaining some of these dreams that I was having to a friend, and they said, do you know that you're lucid dreaming? And I said to them, no, I don't know what that is, and I went down this big rabbit hole. And sure enough, after my mom transitioned and things kind of settled, and now I had time to sit with myself and be to myself. And like you said, a lot of the things that made me unhappy, I no longer desired. And I needed that peace. And I needed peace of mind mostly, because I wanted to make sure, I'm a mom myself, and I wanted to make sure that everybody around me was okay. And then I thought to myself, well, you got to make sure you're okay, and things would come to me that I was just kind of like, what is happening? I would I would feel someone sit at the edge of the bed with me, didn't know what was going on. I I can remember saying, okay, I'm not gonna look, but just don't touch me because then you're gonna freak me out. And um, but I knew I felt safe. I knew that everything was, it wasn't a scary feeling. I was at peace with it. And then I would lucid dream more. And my mom came to me and I in the dream, and I'll never forget this. And I actually was thinking about this earlier today. Um, I was getting ready to take a trip down to the city. So I live upstate New York, and I was getting ready to go to New York City. And she came to me and I said, oh, Mom, I wanted to tell you that I'm getting ready to go down to the city. And she says, I know. And I said, well, how do you know? you know? And she simply said to me, because we are in sync that way. And I will always know. And I said, oh, okay. And from that, I realized that here my mom is on the other side of the veil, still mothering, okay, and still allowing me to receive reassurance that she's okay. I'm going to be okay. She's still with me. All of these things that I had fear about with death, because I feel like at one point of my life, I thought death was just the end and it's forever, and I'm never going to be able to see this person again, and things like that. And I learned so much. I awakened in a way where my soul guided me and I had allowed it. And things started to come into my life. And I prayed, I said, God, I know I'm not a very religious person. Um, I don't follow a religion, but I know that I'm very spiritual and I'm very, very much in tune. And I said, if you want me to be okay, you've got to show me something. You've got to show me something. You've got to guide me in a way where I know that everything is okay and all of this is not for nothing, and I tell you, when they say, when you ask, you shall receive, that is the truth. Because I did. I started to receive, people started to come into my life that I never thought that I would have aligned with. Um, I I met our beautiful dear friend Stacy. She took me on a beautiful journey of hypnotherapy, where I was able to connect into so many different things, and I started to just go down a journey of healing, and it opened me up to so much, and I just wanted to share that piece of my journeying because grief has definitely been an awakening for me. And what I realized also is that I have this knowing, that I never really knew what it was before, and now it's like a flower that's blooming, and just gently, because I think if I get too much information at one time, it just won't work.
Fry
So
your circuits. Yeah.
yes, yes. Um, so it's gently, I gently evolve, and I'm really grateful. I mean, gosh, I never would have imagined that I would even be sitting down having conversations like this. So for me, I'm just very grateful for everything that aligns into my life, and I'm grateful
Mm.
for you, to be able to have this conversation with you. But I just wanted to share that piece of my journey as well.
I'm so glad you did,
Mhm.
and that's so beautiful, and our loved ones are always connected to us, and the closer our relationship was on earth, they're right here. They're right there, and, Weston, one of the first things he told me besides apologizing, he came through immediately apologizing, but then he said, "Mom, you have to teach people that there's no such thing as death." And I was like, I will definitely try to do that." And the other message he said was the importance of our soul's mission here on earth, that we came here for a reason. And he said it's a game. We're here playing a game with our soul, and the game is to wake up and to realize that we aren't the conditioned self. We aren't our stories. We aren't our traumas. We aren't a set self. We aren't a fixed identity, that we are a soul, literally infleshed. And, the more that I do this work exactly how you said, that it is like a flower that opens, that just keeps opening and keeps opening and keeps opening. And to now I'm at this point of realization where, we've all heard, or most of us have heard, you're a soul having a human experience, right? Have you heard that? I'm sure you've heard that. I heard that 1,000 times.
Yes.
But then it
Mhm.
really dawned on me, like, it hit me and I could feel it. I'm like, "I am a soul." Drop having the human experience, just, I am a soul, period. And when I did that, I just started touching my hands and my face, and I was like, "I'm touching my soul. This is my soul made manifest in the world." How remarkable that is. And it made me be profoundly grateful for my relationship that I had with my son, which was a very unusual relationship. We were super close. He was my mini me. We were identical in our personality, in our energy. Not even our personalities, but our energy was identical, and we got each other, and we had a really deep connection, and that didn't go away. It's still here. He still makes me laugh. He still calls me out on my crap. And it makes me laugh. And the way that I get those messages through the soul. So now that I'm aware that I am a soul, I'm like there, and I'm erasing that separation of I'm a soul having a human experience. No, I'm just a soul. And this is just one stop on that journey, right? That I'm like, this is just a stop on this journey of being a soul. And it's actually a very short stop on the journey of being a soul, but we came here for a reason. And so what was that reason? And all we have to do, Weston told me, he said, you set up the conditions for your life that become your conditioning, that then become the conditions for your awakening, your healing journey, your life's path, your soul journey, whatever that is. And I know, like, we've been on trauma summits together and things, and just with all of the childhood trauma and sexual abuse and all the things that I went through, that I was like, all of it was overcoming that, overcoming that, overcoming that, overcoming that. And then to have my son pass too, I was like, are you kidding me right now? But then overcoming that and then realizing there's nothing to overcome because this isn't our ultimate reality. We only live in a 1% visible, 1% experiential of what actually exists, right? And so I'm always aware of that, like being in nature, especially, I will love to play this game of what else can I notice? What am I not seeing? So I can open myself wider outside of just my own little lens of perception, and then I'll start listening and like, oh, I hear all these different birds and I can hear the wind in the trees and I can, like just these different games of I like to play of opening myself up as a soul in a body, and how miraculous that is. And even sitting here and looking at you and talking to you, I'm looking at you just going, she's a soul. She's a soul. And like and just looking at people now and saying, they're a soul. I see they're a soul. It's just it's so simple, but it's so profound when you realize it.
Mhm. Yes, I agree. My gosh, that's awesome. That makes me think so much about what grief actually, one of the biggest things grief actually taught me, which I would love to know what your answer is, but I'll just say love for me is something that I look at totally different now. Um, it's not just the word for me anymore. It is a feeling. And when I connect with love, not just for myself, but for others, and then for nature, and then, just to be here and to experience, it's so, my gosh, it's so overwhelming sometimes in a good way, and in a great way. And when you speak about nature and hearing the birds and things like that, it's the same thing that I do. I go, okay, let me listen, and then let me see if I can find it so I can now know what sound this is. So I'll know what bird it is when I hear it. It's funny, but it's something that I love to do. And I feel like one of the greatest things grief has taught me is love. Because as you mentioned, I also had a childhood with a lot of trauma and sexual abuse and things like that. And where it taught me a lot of not knowing self-love and not knowing love, period, actually. And also not being aware of who I am and myself, and just so out of touch with me, and to awaken to what true love is and how we can truly love ourselves and how we have love beyond the veil as well. When I first learned about my guardian angels, my goodness, I tell you, I want to weep now because it's so. Ooh, it's just so beautiful to know that we have so much love surrounding us. And my guardian angel, she told me I can call her Ruby. So I always say my Ruby. Um, but to know that we are never alone. When I walk and I find feathers, I mean, I have beautiful feathers all over my house because I always find them. But I started to get like cardinal feathers and blue jay feathers and things like that. And I just was like, oh my gosh. So those are the ones that I really keep. I feel that are really unique. But my goodness, the things that I've awakened to is just so magical to me. I can remember meeting people, and I know that these aren't coincidences, but before I experienced grief in a way where it transformed me, because like I said, I've experienced grief before, but never in a way where now it has transformed me. People would I can remember a lady saying to me, "Oh, you're so mystique," and I would say, "Huh? What do you mean?" And they wouldn't go any further. They're just kind of like, "No, it's okay." You have a great aura about you and things like. And I never would pay it any attention, but every so often I would bump into someone that would tell me certain things, and I can remember, this is far off, but I don't know, it just popped into my mind. I can remember the first time that I truly believe that I met an angel. And I was I was having such a bad day going to work. It was right after my father transitioned. And I was having a bad day crying, driving to work. Every morning I would go to work crying. And I would be so stuck in the grief that I couldn't figure out how to, I think, function. I was just kind of like in robot mode, where I just was just doing and not feeling and not experiencing anything, not acknowledging my emotions, anything. And I got to work, and I do medical assistant work, and I used to work at a doctor's office, and and I called in the patient, and I thought to myself, "Gosh, I don't even want to make eye contact. I just want to get her in the room and get out of there quick. Get her in the room, set her up, and let the doctor know she's ready." And it was something about how she moved. She moved very slowly. She took her time, and I'm thinking, "Come on," like I just wanted to rush. I was like, "Come on, let's go," And she walked very slowly. I took her in the back, and I had my chart. This was back before we had EMR, like everything wasn't on the computer. I had my chart, and I'm writing, and I don't want to make eye contact with her because I don't want to have a conversation. and 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 she just, in the middle of me speaking to her, she stopped me and she said, "Everything's going to be okay." And I looked at her as if I was so thrown off. I was so completely, I was like, "What?" And in my mind, I'm thinking, "What is this lady talking about?" And she looked at me, and she said it again. She goes, "Everything is going to be okay." And as soon as she said it again, I just started to cry. I just thought, it makes me want to cry now. I just started to cry. I was crying, and I'm grabbing the tissue. I'm like, "I'm so sorry," and I'm thinking, I'm gonna get fired. I'm in here crying with this patient, and and I'm not doing my job right. And she looked at me and she said, "Don't worry, it's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna turn out fine." And I said, "I'll be right back. I have to go to the bathroom." Because I'm thinking, I have to go to the bathroom and I have to wash my face and I've got to get myself together, and I didn't want to get in trouble. And so I ran to the bathroom, and I'm telling you, I think I had to be in there maybe about 5 to 10 minutes. I cried my eyes out, threw water on my face. I come back out, and I asked my coworker, because when I came back to the room, she was gone. And I said to my coworker, "Where's the lady I just put in here?" And she says, "There was no lady in there." And I said, "Yes, I just brought her in there." Yes, I know. I, I knew something was up with this light this morning. But I said, there, "I brought the lady in here. Where is she? Did you move her? Did you take her to get an x-ray or something?" And she called me Ebs. She goes, "Ebs, there was no lady in there." And I said, "Okay." So I'm thinking, shoot, she doesn't know. I'm thinking she doesn't know. Let me go search for her. We had about 5 rooms. I went to every room. And then I finally went into the room that the doctor was in, and I said, "He must be in there with her." Sometimes he just skips rooms and goes in wherever he wants. He must be in there. I go in, he's in there. He looks at me, goes, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was just looking for something," and nowhere to be found. So then I go up to the lady at the front desk. I said, "Did the client that I brought in, did she check out?" She goes, "There's nobody back up here." And I said, so something then came to me and said, "Let it go." So I walk back to the and I'm trying to find her name now, because now I can't even remember her name. I'm trying to find her name on there, and I hear it again, "Let it go." And so I let it go. And that was the first time I experienced actual time. I felt like stopped. Time froze for a second. Whatever that experience that I had that I know I needed, um, allowed time to actually freeze where everything was normal once I was able to come out that bathroom. It was like nobody noticed I was missing. Nobody knew I was gone. Everything was just in normal flow again. And I never will forget that experience. But that was I know that was way off, but
Oh,
I had to
that was
share it.
a beautiful story. Oh my gosh. And then your lights flickering with your while you're sharing the story. I'm like, "Oh, she's like, yeah."
Yes. So I just,
Oh,
I always had these little things that I guess I didn't pay much attention to, but I paid attention, but I didn't really know what they were there for. And now I know, and I'm just grateful to experience that. But so I'll let you answer. What would you say would be the biggest thing grief taught you, maybe that nothing else would have?
oh gosh. Definitely love, like what love really is. Um, Especially for, loving somebody so much and then not having them here is like, what do you do with all that love? And people say that's what grief is, right? Love with nowhere to go. And so for me, it definitely was about expanding my love, but also expanding uh, my level of self-trust, my level of my own being, and really trusting my journey, trusting my experiences, trusting what was being given to me, those profound experiences that we can't explain, like the angel woman coming to you. And, when you said time stopped, I had that experience as well. And it was with Weston. He came to me the night, it was about 24 hours after he passed. And I just could not sleep as your light starts flashing again. I couldn't sleep. And, I mean, of course, I wasn't sleeping. And I got up and it was rolling around to that 24-hour mark. And I was just, that the what time does in the beginning of grief is so strange, right? How it expands. It seems like the clock is not moving. That 24-hour period felt like I lived 5 lifetimes, and I'm not exaggerating. And so when I got up and went and sat at my altar, I lit candles, I had my altar that I go to pray and meditate, and, there was a song somebody told me to play, somebody that I know really well and love dearly told me to she called me that day and I answered, one of the few phone calls I answered, and she said, "Play this song on repeat for 40 days," and she said, "It ushers the soul to the other side." The song is a call, it's AKAL, it's a Sanskrit song, and it helps to usher the soul to the other side, and all it does is just sing a call over and over and over again. And so I played this song, I put it on repeat. So this is the song that was playing all day long, still playing all night long. I'm sitting there, my eyes are closed, I'm sobbing, and then all of a sudden, my whole being was flooded with my son's essence, his frequency, his energy, as if he were standing right there. And when you lose somebody you love, like for me, I realized like one of the most strange things was the actual tangible void in reality that this person is no longer taking up. And so I could feel his energy again, and he came into my physical body, and I was transported out of my body. It was as if my eyes were open and I was shot up into space, and I was looking at Earth from this view, and I could see these white lights shooting up, shoo, 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 all over the place. And I somehow instinctively knew that those were prayers that were going up specifically for him and for my family and for me. And I knew they were prayers. And then the feeling that was flooded in my body was profound humility, feeling super honored, feeling such proud, and but it was like a humble pride of just like this wow. And and love, this profound love. And he said, I heard his voice in my head and he said, "Wow, Momulus." He used to call me Momulus. He said, "Wow, Momulus, I had no idea what you were up to." And then phew, he was gone. And I opened my eyes and it was so strange because for just a split second, but that split second seemed like a really long time, the song was playing, but it was like on the part where it was like, ah, and it wasn't changing. And the candle flicker was like frozen, and there was frozen shadows on the wall. And it was this weird stillness that I can't even explain. And then everything kind of just like whoop, came back to life. It was so strange. And I was like, I don't know what that was, but I am so freaking grateful I just had that experience. And I was like, "Weston, was that you?" And then, of course, he didn't answer. And, but then things started happening. My husband, the next night, my husband really completely lost it. And because for a while we didn't know if, because of the way the accident happened, there were no brake marks. He was driving super late at night. He was speeding and there were no brake marks. And he hit a, um, a big decorative statue in the middle of a roundabout. And so the police officers were asking if he was suicidal. And I'm like, he was not suicidal at all. And so my husband was like, did he do this on purpose? I'm like, there's no way he would have done this on purpose, but we didn't know for sure. And so my husband completely lost it. He was outside just screaming at the sky. I didn't know any of this because I was like, your anger is bad for my nervous system. So he went outside and he came back in and I just gave him a hug and we went in the room and my dog started acting really weird. And I was like, Nama, what's going on? And she was like, grr. She was looking up and just growling, grr, grr. And she's a super sweet lab. And I was like, what's going on? And I just got down on my knees and called her over to me and she wouldn't come. And I said, do you see Weston? And she started barking and jumping and wagging her tail. And my husband just burst into tears. And he's like, I told him he needed to send me a sign that he didn't do this. And he goes, he just sent it to me. And I was, oh my God, it was beautiful. And so it's taught him about love too, both of us about love, and that there's a definite continuation beyond this experience that we're having here. And that our whole point of being here is to learn how to love ourselves, others, and then of course to love the creator in whatever capacity that means to us. And as it's such an individual, like grief, our spiritual journey is also such an individual journey. And I mean, now I know, I'm like, oh, my life is my path. My life is my spiritual journey. This is the journey. This podcast talking to you right now is the journey. What I do for the rest of the day is the journey. And so when I stay really conscious of that, I stay in love. I stay in the frequency of love, and I stay in that connection with my son and with other people too, that I'm like, I could just talk to them and send them a love message. And knowing that our prayers are literally conscious, intentional acts that help the souls that are on the other side. And so when we pray for other people who've passed, we are helping them. We are helping them, and we're helping them through the process of their own levels of self-forgiveness, because that's really what it is on the other side. Is did you live your life's mission? How well did you live the life you were given? Did you do what you went there to do, which is learn how to love in the most place full of friction to love there could possibly be? And how did you live your life? And when we can forgive, pray for, love, release, let go of all of the things that other souls have done through ignorance when they didn't know that they were souls, that they do things that harm themselves, it harms you. When you do anything to anyone else, it's really harming you more than it's harming them. And I'm so aware of that now. And it's upped my compassion also, I would say, for humanity, that rather than, not to say that I don't get mad at people, or I'm definitely not a saint, but that I can go though from, why is this a-hole tailgating me, to, okay, maybe he's got to get to the hospital. Maybe he has to go to the bathroom really bad. Or maybe he is a jerk and he just isn't aware that he's a soul and I'm a soul and he's affecting me. So I'm just going to scoot over and wish him well on his day. And then in doing that, I've released myself from all of that anger and animosity and the chemical buildup in my body, and hopefully sent him on a better journey too, just in wishing him well, of saying, like, hey, slow down, you're going to hurt somebody or yourself, and those kinds of things make a difference for the people living and for the people who've crossed over. I know that for sure.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. I love that you touched on the part where that compassion that we gain, and the grace for others, and you know, for me, I think growing up in such a trauma-filled childhood where I was around a lot of abuse, I had this defense up, this wall up of just not wanting to trust anyone, not wanting to let anyone in, and also trying to figure out how to now protect myself. Um, and I can remember times of my life where I would be a bit of a hothead, where it was just kind of like the first reaction was something angry or something just not nice, or like, oh, they're attacking me, so I have to attack back, like, and gosh, I smile, I look back now and I'm thinking, my goodness, um, but you're right. This experience of grief has taught me so much. And I think when I learned to be able to have compassion for myself, and then the grace for myself, that was when I'm able now to look at others in that way. And it's the same thing, I'll hear someone say something or they'll be rude, and I'm thinking, gosh, I don't know what it is that they're experiencing right now, but I hope it gets lighter, I hope, God, I hope they're able to find a way for it to get lighter, and same thing. I had someone yelling at me through a taxi. I was in a taxi and she's yelling and screaming, and I'm thinking, I was so confused, and what I told the driver, I said, she might be having a bad day. Let's just keep going and, and keep, but so yeah, it's truly a shift. Honestly, it truly, truly is, and I'm grateful for it, because I I love to be in space where I'm at peace now. Um, I feel like I've experienced so much of not having peace that now that's all I want. That's all I ask for, is just, I just need to be in peace. And so I create that for my life now. And it's funny, when I go down to New York City and visit, I feel myself going, oh, I'm so overwhelmed here. It's so much going on, you know.
Mm.
And I try to make sure I still enjoy myself, but then I know that I'm ready to go back. I'm ready to go back to the countryside where there's not much going on. And then I'm also very aware now of what type of energy I can deal with and what type of energy I can't. And that I do have a lot of empath in me, where I can soak up someone else's energy very easily. And I'm very aware of these things now, where before, like, my friends would make jokes. They would call me like the grandma of the group, because I would always be tired. I would always be exhausted.
Oh, are you a projector in human design? Do you know?
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure,
Mm.
but maybe I'm gonna now look into it and see.
Yeah, now I'm curious.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Mm.
I would always be so exhausted. And I would be the first one to go to sleep, everything. So, they would always have crack jokes on me and things like that. But now I know that I can't exchange too much energy for too long.
Mm.
I have to go and do the things that recharge me. And so I know now when I feel drained, okay, I've had enough. I'm I'm going over here now, or it's time for me to go. then I need to go recharge. And I've learned so many tools of how to recharge, but that makes me think of when the energy first came from my hands. I was sitting I was actually laying in bed, actually. I had just prepared Thanksgiving dinner with my family, and it was the first Thanksgiving right after my mom transitioned.
Mm.
And I said, well, instead of me um, pretending like I don't know she's not here. I'm going to acknowledge that she is still with me and that she's still with us. And I set a plate at the table with a beautiful bow. It was really beautiful, beautiful gold bow and on it. Um, and that night, I was watching TV. The palms of my hand started to burn, and not to where it hurt me, which is very strange because when I say burn, and you would think that that it would hurt, but it did not. And I started to feel the energy pulsing, and I said, "What is this? You know, what is going on?" And I'm thinking, God, what is happening? Am I losing it? Like, am I like, what is going on? You know? And the very first thing I thought of was, oh, well, I do know a Reiki master. Maybe that has something to do with that. And that just led me down a whole rabbit hole of me becoming a Reiki practitioner. Um, but now, today, the more that I evolve, I think it's a little different than Reiki, and which I'm grateful to have the knowledge of Reiki, but I also think there's a little bit more there for me to learn. Um, but that is also the same morning. That morning I woke up. That's the same morning I had the hawk sitting at my window looking in, and I it scared the heck out of me because I never seen this bird that close before, and I was like, "What is that?" You know, and as I got up to go look, he kind of just flew away. And I said, "Oh no, don't leave," you know. And I said, "Okay." And I got up and I went to the restroom. I come back and he's back there now facing towards the window, looking in. And I said, "Okay, is this a spirit animal of mine?" You know, and I have to tell you, every time I go out and I ground and I connect in nature and I talk with spirit and I speak to my guides, there's the hawk that flies above my head. So, you know, these things that have awakened to me, my goodness, it's so amazing. And I'm just so grateful. And I had no idea today my light was going to be
I love it.
like the confirmation of our conversation, right? Like it's just kind of like,
It
yep, that's it.
it really is, and when we I think when we open ourselves up
Mhm.
to the magic, if we wanna
Yes.
call it magic, that's really more real than this reality we've constructed and created, right? It's like we're all creating our own reality, and and then we have this collective reality we've all agreed to live in, which right
Mhm.
now is being all shook up. It's being completely shaken up, and this whole new energy is coming to the planet, as which so many of us are
Mhm.
experiencing and feeling, and it really amazes me how many people who are their gifts are awakening, like your hands-on healing gifts. You're like, I could, like, as you were talking, my hands are heating up just from you talking. I was like, oh, I could feel it. Those empath abilities, the spirit medicine abilities that we really learn how to tune in. And the more that we move beyond belief, it's not like I believe in this. It's more of a, I know this is true. I know this is happening. I know this is real. That the more that we acknowledge that reality, the more that that reality acknowledges back to us. It's like it's a mirror,
Mhm.
and it gives us as much as we, our capacity will handle without freaking out or frying us, like we said in the beginning, like feeling someone sitting on your bed and be like, don't touch me because I'll freak out, but I know you're there and I'm okay with it. But yeah, it's like knowing, but if you wanted to be touched, they would, right? Like they'll
Right.
touch you, they'll feel it. And these miraculous things that happen, that we can start to keep our eyes open. And I just had this yesterday. There's this friend of mine that every time we talk, 1111 or 111 will appear for him when we're talking. And so yesterday we were talking and he just yells it. He's like, holy beep. And he's like, my odometer just went to 11,111 miles.
Oh, it's so funny.
And I was like, I know. And then I was like, and it did it at 11:11. Like we were just talking, and I was like, and it's 11:11. And we were like, no way. This is just so funny. But it's just, and so we always notice like when those things happen, what were we talking about? What was the conversation we were in? What was the energy? Because it's
Mhm.
like a divine confirmation that's coming in. That's like, yes, make a note, check.
Yes.
It's like ding. And learning
Yes.
how to speaking the language
Mhm.
of our loved ones when they've crossed over and how they communicate with us. I always joke and say, I'm like, that movie Ghost did us such a great disservice because he's not sitting here next to me. I can't see him, but he does things. He flickers lights,
Mhm.
sends me codes,
Mhm.
sends me songs, sends me a license plate, sends me a book passage, sends me somebody who will say something random that just answered a question I was thinking in my head. And
Mhm.
the biggest kicker of all for me is that, before he passed, one day we were sitting in our backyard and these two crows. So I live in Phoenix and there's not a lot of crows in Phoenix. Anybody who lives here knows there's not a lot of crows in Phoenix. They pass through for a very short window of time. And so there's this crow couple, and every year they pass right over my house, and so I leave them gifts on my wall because I'm
Oh,
like, I want them to come to my house, right? So, and they will collect your gifts and they know
goodness.
you. So I heard them and I jumped up in the backyard and I said, my crow friends are here. And I stand in my backyard and I'm like, caw, caw.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much.
And my son is looking at me. He's like, what? And I go, you need to run in the house. And I'm like, bring them a present. I'm like, go get this so I can put it on the wall.
Oh, I love it.
So
Oh
he's
my goodness.
so he just goes at the end of all of this the crows come back. He watches them circle back. They come back to my house and he goes, are
Oh
you
my
a witch? Like, no, I'm not a witch. So, and so
Oh, that's amazing.
oh my gosh. So I had a premonition about his
Mm.
passing, and I knew that if he went on this trip, something horrible was going to happen. And I begged him not to go. And we spent the day before and for whatever reason, he said, hey, can I just not go to school today and hang out with you? Like, what kind of
Mm.
18-year-old boy wants to hang out with his mom all day? Although we did have lots of fun all the time. So for us, it
Mhm.
wouldn't have been weird. But we ran errands and I was bribing him all day long. I was like, help me with my floor. Don't go on this trip. I'll pay you $1,000. And I'm like, let's go find you a kitten because he really wanted a kitten. So we
Mhm.
went searching for a kitten. I'm like, let's go get tattoos. He wanted his first tattoo. I'm like, we'll go get your first tattoo. And I was like, as long as you get mom with a heart on your arm. Like we were joking
Yeah.
around with stuff like that, but we couldn't find a kitten. Blah blah blah. So 3 months later, I moved into this new place that I'm at my work, where he was supposed to help me fix it up, and uh, my husband wound up being sick that day. I was supposed to take my friend to Sedona who had never been there, and we were going to leave at like 6 in the morning, but my husband was sick and I just said, I don't want to leave him in case he needs me. Can we just do a local hike? She's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So we met at my office in the morning, go outside, and there's a little black kitten in my tree right next. Looking at the tree right now outside of my office, this little tree, this little tiny black kitten in this tree. And I'm like, what, who are you? And I went and put my hand up and this little kitten comes scooching down, and she filmed it. I've got a video of it. This little kitten puts his paw right on top of my hand. I've never experienced an animal do this before. Puts his paw in my hand and he's just looking at me in my eyes. And I'm looking at this cat and its eyes, its green eyes. And then I said, come on, little baby cat. And it jumps down out of the tree right into my arms. And I called my husband and I was like, Weston sent me a cat. He goes,
That's right.
he's like, "Weston sent you a cat?" I'm
Oh,
like, "Yeah, there was a kitten in the tree." I work in an industrial complex. There is a busy intersection of streets. There are no houses around here. I don't know where this cat came from. Well, it came from Weston. And this cat has been my heart medicine. I'm serious. Seriously, this little cat. And so
goodness.
Weston loved rap music, and I would always tease him, and I'd be like, "Why is it Lil this and Lil that? Like, why is it always little?" And so the cat, I named it Panther, and I was like, "Oh, this is Panther." And Weston totally dropped into my consciousness. He goes, "No, it's Lil P."
Oh, so good.
That's what that's what the cat's name is, Lil P Panther cat.
Oh,
And this
oh
cat,
my
though,
goodness.
every morning, I kid you not, every morning she'll come, climb up in my arms like a baby. She'll make this little sound. She'll be like, "Purr, purr, purr," and she'll do like this little wiggle, and then she'll curl into a little
Oh my
circle in my arm, and
goodness.
I hold her like a baby. And then she puts her paw right on my heart
Wow.
and just lays there and purrs and looks at me. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
goodness.
"Whew." Yeah,
Mm.
it's that kind of magic where some people be like, "Oh,
Yes.
that's just a cat. That's just a coincidence." Well,
Oh,
coincidence is the word people use who don't believe in miracles because I'm like,
exactly.
it's all around us, and
Mhm.
yeah, to the depths of the pain are the heights of the joy. It's like it's
Mm.
the equal because we live in this world of polarity, and for me, it's the depth of the grief is the height of the love, and the depth of the pain is the height of my joy, and it's just, it's
Mm.
a profound experience to have on our human journey. It's a
Yes.
painful experience to have on our human journey, but
Mhm.
it's also, I think, awakens, like, if we do it like the way that we did with someone that you love so much, you can keep that connection, you can feel that connection, you can know that it's there, and access something in you, a strength in you, your true self, and especially for those of us who grew up abused and grew up and it's for so many light workers, if we call ourselves light workers or healers or whatever we wanna call ourselves on the planet right now, we came here for this to we endured all of this pain, so we really understand humanity, we understand resiliency, we understand pain, we understand compassion, forgiveness, all of those things that
Mhm.
move you into a higher expanded capacity being. It frees your nervous system from all the trauma that you were holding on to that was wound up in there, that it somehow gets cleared out when you go through a you don't have to go through grief to accomplish that, but grief is something that comes in and blows up your whole life, and so
Mm.
you can use it consciously while your life is being rebuilt because you are being rebuilt into someone new, and I feel like when we just be in the love when we just be in the love of it, that's what opens up our healing capacities, our gifts, our soul purpose that we came here to do. And, I know for me it was I used to be so not in my body. And honestly, until Weston passed, there was still even all after all of the work I had done, that there was still this little block in my heart and I could feel it. And I would always say my journals are full of me just saying like, "Why what is this block in my heart? It feels like there's this wall and I can't get around it no matter what I do." It's just it's there. And when Weston died, it blew up that wall. It completely blew up that wall. It destroyed that wall. And, the day before he passed, and I posted it on Instagram, so I have proof. It's date stamped. Um, Along with the premonition, the Sunday morning before he passed, I was meditating and I heard a message that dropped in and it said, "It's time to be reacquainted with grief." And
Mm.
it said, "Grace descends upon the heart that has been broken open." And I
Mm.
wrote about it and talked about it on Instagram, but I thought it was talking about grief from trauma, like going back and like you're not above the trauma, you're not over the trauma, you're not out of that. Like it's a part of your story, it's a part of your journey, it's a part of what made you who you are in this lifetime. But what I found under that wall that blew up my heart was my light. And that's why I say it's turn up your light. It was my light, the light of my soul, that sensitive little beautiful, precious part of myself that comes directly from the creator, that we all are in truth, that we all are in truth. And that's the part that when abuse happens, when you're not seen, when you're harmed, that you cover it up because you think that part of you is dangerous. That's the part of
Mm.
you that gets hurt. That's the part of you that's dangerous. And I know for me, my gift of seeing people, how I mean, now I'm like, "Oh, you're a soul. I see your soul." But I always could see people's light. I could see who they
Mm.
are. I could see what they need. And I learned to hide in plain sight by morphing. I just morph and become whoever was in front of me. And so it was like
Mhm.
I never had like a specific group of friends because I could just morph and fit in, like fit. It's hiding in plain sight. I was hiding in plain sight my whole life. And so after Weston passed and I'm not hiding anymore, that anxiety was through the roof of like, I can't hide. I can't hide. I don't know what to do. And I really didn't know. And I was like, well, I don't need to know what to do. I just need to be here and honor the need for quiet, like you were saying, the need for silence, the need for stillness, the need for peace. Honor that and just see what arises, see what happens, see what comes. And what has come is an absolute certainty in self-trust of who I am, that now it's like, oh, well, and this acceptance of people who they are, and not acceptance like, oh, I accept you, come be in my life, but an acceptance of, I see where you're at on your journey and I don't have to participate in that.
That's
And
right.
without also the judgment or the attachment, or just like, that's where you are and I honor you on your own soul's journey because you're on one too.
Yes.
So,
Gosh,
yeah.
isn't that such a beautiful awakening to have? Because I would, you know, ah, it's just I don't know how to really explain it because when you're so used to living your life in one way, and then something I call it my beautiful disaster. Um, because that's what it felt like. It felt like this is such a disaster that I'm experiencing, but so much beautiful things are coming from it. And in a way, I feel as if it was such a gift to be given this connection that I have, this soul contract that I have with my mom, of yes, in that experience and in that moment, in that time, it was terrible for me, and it was very, very hard. And as things started to change and things that I started to be able to heal a little by little, um, I could see the beauty in what was happening. And the more that things were revealed to me, and the more I would learn, um, I just thought to myself, wow, this is such a beautiful gift. Almost in a way where look at the gift that she has given me of her transition that has allowed me now to transform into a part of me that I never thought would have existed. And I know that a lot of that strength came from me experiencing that grief with her, and I'm grateful for it. And I've learned also, when we hear people say, well, we're all going to pass one day, right? It's very simple to hear it, but when you have to experience it, it's a totally different thing. And the more that I learn about um, the soul's journey and the rest that I feel that my mom needed and deserved, I am, excuse me, I am grateful that she is at rest right now, and I'm grateful and I'm really happy that she is. I feel she's so powerful on the other side of the veil. I can feel the shifts that she helps create, and the blessings that are being ushered into my life, and just the guidance that she can give me from the other side. I feel it's so much
Mm.
stronger. And I'm grateful for it because here I am still journeying, and I still have a connection with my mom in a higher sense. And I feel so grateful for it, and it's hard to really explain that to certain individuals. They're kind of like, no, I don't see how you could say that, and I do understand because I get, like what you said, I get where people are on their journeys. And I'm not to force where I am on anyone else. or judge, and I'm okay with that. But I know what I feel. I know what I know, and my goodness, it's such a beautiful thing. And my my experience has been, I don't know how to even explain it. I really don't.
Yeah.
And it also allows me to kind of step back and look at myself and say, gosh, look at everything we've experienced here, and be so grateful for what has to come. And so so it's a big beautiful thing for me. But that brings me to, when I hear you speak of sovereignty, and and I thought to myself, the very first time I heard you speak of it, and I can feel the way that it comes through you. And I thought to myself, gosh, um, am I the authority of myself? Am I? Am I truly? And I sat with it for a little while, and I said, well, yes, of course. Of course you are. You have learned to become this. You have grown to become this. Um, and and I feel that I'm so different from who I used to be. And and my friends, it's so funny because my closest friends are friends that I've had in high school. And they're adjusting to me now because I'm nothing like I was before. I still like to laugh and have a good time and things like that, but I'm also very, very aware of my intentions, and the things that feel aligned with me, and not to force things that don't work. And so it's different for who I was before. But it's okay. I just feel like I took a break from everyone, and now I'm okay with being able to exchange energy again, and let people back into my lives that I feel safe with, and things like that. So it's funny because I kind of, I get it. I get that, like, they're looking at me like, who is this? What's going on? But I also know also that these people that I journey with, that I dearly love, that we are all aligned for a reason, and that you know there's there's a gift in whatever it is that whatever roles we play in each other's lives.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that. But I did want to touch on your message of sovereignty, because that to me is so beautiful.
Mm. Well, I don't know that I have well, I guess I do because it's you're sovereign and, oh gosh, it's such a big word, and it really means to be in your own inner authority, that you are the author of your own life, that you don't let other people dictate who you are, and sovereign beings are uncontrollable, right? We're like, no one gets to there's always been this little rebel in me that's always been like, "Don't tell me what to do." And if somebody tells me I can't do it, "Oh yeah, watch me." Like I've always had that kind of energy about me, which is like it's sovereignty. It's this little sovereignty seed within that's like, "Don't tell me who I am. Don't tell me what I can't do. Don't tell me what I can do." Like, don't, I am the author of my life, and wow, it's also has to do for me with the sacred, that it's like I'm a sacred being. Sovereign to me is also in my divine nature, my divinity, that I'm not the stories that happened to me. I'm not the person that I was. I'm not the personas that I wore. I'm not the labels. I'm not the things I did. I'm none of those things. They've all just been cumulative experiences of this being called me in this lifetime. But to be sovereign is also to really be in my own integrity and in my own alignment, that I'm not the one anymore who crosses my own boundaries because I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't I just don't do those things. Um I've stopped drinking alcohol, come actually 2 years this month. Wow. So I actually grieved sober. That was another thing that was huge for me. Um, and all of these personas and ways of being that were false, that I could feel are false, that they've all just fallen away. And I think that's one of the things that we get through this grief journey too, is this tangible knowing. Like for so many people, the thought of death is abstract. Like you were saying, it's like it's an abstract thought. Yeah, I'm going to die someday. Yeah, but when you sit with that and your ego confronts that fact, it is a terrifying experience to go through. It was for me. It was horrifying and terrifying. And but it all led me to this sovereignty that's really about integrity with the sacred. And for so many years, I would say the last 5 years, I was seeking the sacred, and I was taking all of these sacred journeys to sacred places around the world and just immersing myself in these temples and stone circles and all these places looking for the sacred, only to find out it's been here all along. I didn't have to go anywhere to find it. It's right here. And that's my sovereignty. That is my sovereignty, my sacred soul, what it wants from me. Every time I say yes, even when it scares me, is me practicing my sovereignty, being in my sovereignty. Every time I say no, even though it's tempting, that's me being in my sovereignty. And so it's a practice. It's not really it's a state of being that you practice being in when you're listening to the soul guidance, and you're listening to the guidance from your guides, from your angels, from your well, for me, you have your mom, I've got my son, that he's become my greatest teacher and my guide, that I listen to him. I feel those nudges and how he drops in, and tuning into the frequency and knowing when it's him that's coming in. I'm like, oh, that's my son. He's boop dropping in with something for me. And now I'm also paying attention because something happened in this podcast that I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to go look this up. Last year, our mutual friend Stacy and I she was here on Mother's Day last year, and we went to Sedona, went to this Airbnb. We had a magical day, went to this Airbnb, and they had this fantastic bookshelf of great books. And so both of us being book nerds, we went to the bookshelf, we're like, boop. And I found a book on this bookshelf called My Beautiful Disaster. And when I took it off the bookshelf and I opened it up, it was about a mother wrote it who had lost her 18-year-old son, the same age Weston was when he passed. She lost him to a drug overdose. Inside of this book was a note. So the note falls out, and you can imagine Stacy and I are like, oh, what does it say? So we unfold the note, and it says, oh, I've got goosebumps. Oh my gosh. It says debt. And it says house, it has a number. It says rent, it has a number. It says credit card, it has a number. Then it says motorcycle, it has a number. And there was one more thing, I can't remember what it was, it had a number. So Stacy and I, of course, were like, we need to add these up. So we're adding up the numbers, and they added up to number 14, which is a very meaningful number for me in my life. I have it tattooed on my arm. Momulus.
Wow.
I got Momulus and 14 tattooed on my arm. 14 means resurrection. It came to be revealed to me. It's a number that's appeared to me my entire freaking life. And I've been like, what does 14 mean? And I found out after my son passed, it means resurrection. And so the numbers all totaled up to 14. And in that book, all in that note was so funny that it just said debt, that I had shared with Stacy. Like, one of Weston's biggest things was like, I just don't want to be an adult. This is going to suck. It's nothing but debt. It's nothing but stress. It's like, he's like, I don't understand racism. I don't understand why there's all these religions and people hate each other. I don't understand poverty. Nothing here has to be this way. Like, he was really bent out of shape about how the world worked. He was a wise old soul. And so that note, it was like, Stacy was like, it's like all the things Weston didn't want to deal with. I'm like, I know. And they added up to 14. So there's something around the Beautiful Disaster book now that I'm going to have to go find. Like, maybe I need to find this author, or there's something in the book. I don't know. I'm going to have to now order this book, because you just dropped it in, and it was exactly a year ago tomorrow that happened.
Yes.
So isn't that strange?
I have chills all over my body. You did see the light pop in when you were speaking about the 14, but
Yep.
it did. And it makes me think of, not sure if you remember this, when I have to get Stacy on this podcast, but when we first met, um, Stacy brought us together in a Zoom call, and it was a few of us. And I thought to myself, gosh, I pretty much know everyone here, but I don't really know Joya. And I said, well, I trust Stacy's energy, so I know that we'll probably align one day. And this was like, I don't know how long ago it was. I can't remember, but it was a while ago. Um, and my goodness, that image just popped into my mind as you're speaking about this book, and then with Stacy being there that at this time, was it last year? Last year, I'm just kind of like, whoa, that just, whoa, that just, I don't know. And then maybe it's something I should look up also, the book. So I'm going to look for the book myself now.
I'm gonna
But
look
my
right now and tell you. I'll tell you
goodness,
who wrote it. Yeah, it's called A Beautiful Disaster.
that
Her name
is
is
like,
Julie
yeah,
Hudgens. I think that's her, Julie Hudgens. Let me just make sure before, because
yes.
I remember reading this book and just I didn't read the book. I grabbed it off of the nope, this is a overdose story, which is another beautiful disaster. It might have been called My Beautiful Disaster. But anyway, you mentioning it was
Yeah.
like, what are
I
the
have
odds?
to tell you, I almost didn't because we were talking. It seems like we start talking about something and then something pops in, and I'm like, okay, I guess I have to share that. So I share it. Um, we were speaking about something, and it kept coming, and I was like, okay, I don't think this has anything to do with what we're speaking. So I wrote it down, and I wrote it here, my beautiful disaster, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned it to you because it kept coming, and so I
Have
know it was
goosebumps
something
all
there.
over, and maybe the whole point of that was just to illustrate to the people watching how this
Wow.
works. How the I've
Oh,
got goosebumps all over me that, like, maybe it's nothing about the book so much
mm,
as it's about
oh
how
my
how
goodness.
this works, how we are so divinely intermingled and intertangled. I'm getting emotional just feeling
Oh,
it, and, like, when I pull a web, it affects somebody else way over there, and you just pulled that web and it affected me, and it's like, "Whoa, whoa."
amazing. I love it. Amazing. My
Maybe
goodness.
life is a beautiful disaster.
Ah, yes. Yes, that's right. My goodness.
Oh, goodness.
Julia, before I let you go, I would love for you to speak about your upcoming book, and just let me know whatever, and everyone watching know whatever it is that you want. I know it's not out yet, but I would
No.
love to hear you to speak about it.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh my god. Well, I'm
Yes.
in the process of writing it, and, it's morphing as we speak. I was actually talking to I finally hired a book coach to help me because it's just I'm like, I need help focusing and getting all of these ideas and downloads to make sense in a way that people will understand and what it is and who it's for. And it's not a grief journey because grief was the catalyst for me that led me into these beautiful principles. And so there were 9 principles, but the 10th one dropped in just yesterday, and I was like, what it all culminates to, and I was like, "Oh my god." And so, I'm not gonna talk about that particular principle right now because it's still marinating inside of me and what it all means. It's being unpacked right now as we speak, but the rest of the book is really, um, just the first part of it is a mini memoir, which is about, my childhood, all the trauma, surviving a suicide attempt, all of the mystical experiences I had. And then, of course, my son and his passing, and then what he gave me, which was this transmission that came through of these 6 things to walk through not only grief consciously, but life consciously. And when you use these principles, they really transform your identity. And so I'm writing a book about those principles, and it's tentatively titled Turn Up Your Light. So that's actually the tentative name of the book because the best way to walk through the darkness of life is to turn up your light. And so that's really the premise of the book, and to come into the realization that we are souls, period, full stop, not having a human experience. We are souls. This is just one part of it. And how to actively activate your light, find your gifts, find your purpose, practice these principles, and watch your freaking life transform into the light that you are, the light bearer that you are, and to do what your soul came here to do. And the most important message is that, and that what Weston told me, Mom, you got to help people wake up in the game. And it's so important to our soul to wake up while we're here. Yeah. So my launch date, my published date that I'm shooting for is July 22nd, which is Mary Magdalene's feast day. So she's my guide. So she's always been my guide since I was a little girl. So I'm like, what better day to launch this book than that day? So yeah,
Aw, so amazing. Thank you for sharing with me and
thank
everyone
you.
else that's listening. My goodness, I'm excited. I'm excited. Um, well, I do want to ask every guest that I've had so far, because this is such a podcast for me that I feel was so divinely led. I created this maybe about a year or two ago, and then I kind of left it alone. I didn't go back to it, and then I wanted to create something else. I have this thing about myself where I love to create, but sometimes I don't finish the project that I created, and so I'm working on that. And I said, well, I'm on this, and I always pull an angel card, and I make sure I listen, and I try to make sure I'm divinely led, and I'm working on this project that I had, and I clearly heard, do your podcast. And I said, but no, I'm not going back to that. I'm doing this now. you know and I clearly heard, no, do your podcast. And I said, okay, all right, fine. And I said, well, then it has to be a podcast where I feel so aligned with people, in some sort of a way where we have some sort of resonance and alignment that that would make me feel really good about doing it. So I'm so grateful for you saying yes. I'm very, very grateful for you. Thank you so much. But what I like to do at the end is just ask if there's anything that you would like to ask me, being that I get to ask all the questions. um, I'd like to give you a question before we end, that if you would like to ask me something.
Let me tune in and see if there's anything. I feel like this conversation has been so back and forth, and getting to know you better and your journey and through grief and trauma and just your beautiful light in your soul. Oh yeah, that's the question that's coming in is um the I feel you, I experience you as being this like calm buoy in a storm. Like if there was a storm going on, I know I could just tether to you and I wouldn't sink. And so I'm wondering if this is a quality that you're aware of, that you have within yourself, and if you've had that your whole life, and if other people have looked to you as being that. And do you do this from a place now of sovereignty?
Hmm. My goodness. Yes, I will say yes. That because right now I'm thinking of as a child. In my childhood, I grew up around a lot of chaos, a lot of alcoholism, fighting, arguments, abuse, things like that. I'm the youngest grandchild of the seven of us. I'm the youngest of my mom's four children. And I've always been very, very emotional, I will say. This whole time I'm sitting here trying not to cry, the whole podcast. But whenever there was something going on, an argument or someone disagreeing, anything, that I would cry, but I would always want to be the one to fix it, to stop the chaos, to have us come together and just love each other as a family. I can remember that. I can feel that so strongly, is what I wanted as a child, was just for us to love each other as a family. And that was it. As I grew up and became the teenager, um, same thing with my group of friends. They would always say, well, we want your opinion because you're always the one that doesn't pick a side, and you're the calm one, and you and you kind of, you're like the mediator of something, and so even in my adult life, I feel like that's how I've always been. I've always wanted to keep the calm, keep the peace between everything. And so I will say, yes, I have had friends come to me to help them in certain ways in their lives. Um, Also, do I do that intentionally today with my, yes, with sovereignty? Yes, absolutely. Yes. That is something that I feel probably most comfortable with, um, because I feel like that is a piece of me. That is a piece of maybe a purpose of me being here, or something. I can't really explain it, but I can feel it within me, like it's just a part of who I am. And even within my family, I'm more of like, someone would call me with something that they're upset about, or this one is upset with this one, and I'm just like, all right, guys, come on, like, it is what it is. We're still family. Let's just love each other and move on, and and so that would be me. Yeah, that would
Wow.
be me. And I also choose that for myself within my life today.
Mm,
Um, Not so much before, but today, yes. Today, yes. If there is a storm, I'm able now to sit calmly through it, um, because I have that faith of knowing the storm will end, and
mm.
and it will bring something beautiful. Um, and I've had to learn that, because I tell you, I've had some storms before that I thought would this is going to end me. You know,
Yeah.
but now I'm able to look at things much differently and be grateful for those things, because I know something is brewing, and whatever it is, I'll be okay. And that there's also a gift I can find in there. So
Mm.
I'm not going to say, yeah, I'm really happy when the storms come and I'm excited for them. But when they come, I kind of just buckle down and say, all right, stay calm. Don't move
Mm.
in fear. Because I was taught to move in fear a lot.
Yeah.
And so I would say yes. I think, I hope I answered that correctly
You
for you.
did. I feel
But yes.
it feels like divine mother energy.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
Definitely.
beautiful.
As the light
Look
flashes
at
on
that.
you. It does. It
Yes.
feels like you feel like divine mother energy to me. That's just that really loving, stable presence of just like everything's gonna be okay. Kinda like the angel who greeted you.
Mm,
Everything's gonna be okay.
yes.
Yeah, you are
That's
that angel.
exactly how I feel. Oh, well,
Yeah,
thank you. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, thank you so much.
yeah.
I do want to ask you, earlier you mentioned, if I know if I am, if I is it projector? Did you say projector?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I was curious if you were a
I
projector.
want projector. I want to look into it because it won't let it leave. So I want to look into
Ooh,
it. So I'm gonna
okay.
look into
And
it.
I can send you a link on my website where you can get your chart, so it'll tell you. Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause
awesome.
I do this
Thank
for
you
my
so much.
clients. I use their human design and their astrology to help them find your soul's, curriculum. Like, your this is not your soul path, but this is your curriculum that you came to work with. Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, I'm so excited about that. I'm gonna do
Yeah,
it
that'll
right
be
away. I
definitely
wanted to
text.
ask, is that the same? That's not the same as a natal chart and things like that. That's
Natal
different.
chart is your astrology, and then human
Mhm.
design is a spinoff of
Got
it's
it.
astrology, it's
Ah,
Kabbalah, it's the
oh, I
I
love
Ching,
that.
it's a bunch of things all in one system. Yeah,
Wow. Awesome. Thank you
yeah.
so much.
Oh, you're so
My goodness,
welcome.
this has been such a pleasure. Please let everyone know where
I
they can
will.
find you, how they can connect with you. So I'll let you say
Oh, thank you. I was like, "I will." I mean, I'm like, "I will share this podcast with the whole world." I will let people know. You can find me on my website, which is there below my name, joyasosnowski.com, Sosnowski or sosnowski.com, joyasosnowski.com. And everywhere on Instagram, I'm Joya Luminous. And that's pretty much the only social media I'm on these days. I've cut out a lot of social media and then, of course, my
that.
podcast, Turn Up Your Light, which I release an episode every Wednesday and teach you tangible tools and ways that you can turn up your light. And then I do always end it with a practice so people can experience it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joya. This has been such a
Oh,
gift. I'm
it
so
has.
very grateful. Thank
I am
you.
too. Thank you so much. So
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.